Mike Burlak here to entertain you with the help of Robert Tepper, help from Robert Tepper, and inspiration from Matt Cross of the 33 Secrets YouTube channel. We're not indestructible. Baby, better get that straight. I think it's unbelievable how you give into the hands of fate. Some things are worth fighting for. Some feelings never die. I'm not looking for another chance. I just wanna know why. There's no easy way out. There's no shortcut home. There's no easy way out. Giving in can't be wrong. Alright, I'll probably do a whole cover of it at some point. But the reason I said inspiration from Matt Cross, because he recently did a parody of that song on his own channel, using footage of BS feminist protest and stuff, and all the weird stuff you see there. The expression on his face when he's driving around his DeLorean pretty much says it all. But he had it posted for a while that he was going to do it, but it took a little time before he finally posted. I guess he had to get this Robert Tepper's permission, because he used the actual recording of the song. But I wanted to get one out there. I'm still working on Sting, but I will be doing that. But I wanted to get one out there. Incidentally, I mentioned that me and my sisters used to ride our bikes to a local secondhand bookstore where I bought a lot of song books. Not just books, also pamphlets. That's why I have this. It's No Easy Way Out from Rocky IV. The music from it. Anywho, before I wanted to mention one thing. I was thinking about the show Doogie Howser. Now, I wasn't a hardcore fan of that show. One of them shows I watched when I was in foster care. I lived in a couple different homes while I was in foster care, and oddly enough, everybody watched the same shows. So, but Doogie Howser was one of them. He was a genius kid, a doctor, and he kept the journal on his computer. But from my point of view, based on the little of it I've seen and what I know of the show, that show was a good example of boomer parenting fantasy. We raised you, now you're 9 and you're on your own. We got an important social to get to. It just seemed to me that parents were always going out of town. The whole show centered around the fact that this kid was a teenage doctor and his crazy, eccentric, outcast next-door neighbor, and there had to have been a girl in the show. The name Wanda comes to mind as I was thinking about it. But, but from my point of view, the parents were like the poster child for boomer parenting. Fantasy boomer parenting. If you know the show better than me, comment down below. So over the holiday weekend, I did something for me. Something I like to do. A little thing called antiquing. So a local antique store I go to 2-3 times a year. They know me by name because even though I only go there 2-3 times a year, I usually end up spending money. But I never buy anything big. I just buy a lot of little stuff. And this time around, I came across some comic books that I wanted to share a little bit about. Hopefully I don't get in trouble. This one here is called Groovy Cartoons, Gags, and Jokes, 1967-68. There's a section here called Freak Out Funnies. It features a quote, a direct quote from, the quote is from John Lennon. It says, my wife is cooking or boiling or frying eggs all the time. Sometimes she'll wake me up early in the morning and say, look at the nice eggs I made for you. And I have to get up and look at the eggs. Now, the quote is from John Lennon, but weirdly enough, the photograph, to me, is Ringo Starr holding a megaphone. I mean, you tell me. It looks like Ringo Starr to me. There's another quote in here from Mickey Nolan of the Monkees. It says, a pal of mine made a record and it didn't sell. They forgot to put a hole in the middle. Obviously a joke reference to the fact that there's a hole in the middle of a record. But I don't know if I'll get in trouble for sharing these photos or not, but whatever. At this point, I really don't care. Anyways, the book is just full of goofy quotes from. There's another one from Bob Refferson of the Monkees. It's often been said that, probably a manager, it's often been said that we monkeys were manufactured and then assembled. That's not so. More like an old-fashioned Japanese marriage, arranged. One from Sonny and Cher. There's quite an advantage having one of those little sports car. If you run out of gas, you could always siphon your cigarette lighter. Johnny Cash. Imagine, I didn't even know about country music until I got into the service, and then I met all those hillbillies. Apparently a quote from the Rascals, which is the band that makes that song Good Lovin', says, did you hear about the goof who mixed LSD with chicken soup and took a trip to Israel? Anyways, there's a whole section in the book called Misery is a Blind Date by Johnny Carson. 1967-68. What can I say? I'm weird like that. I find value in things that most people don't find value in. I had to trim the ends of this, though, because it was in bad shape. As long as it's legible, that's what I say. Another one I found was the Swiss Family Robinson Classic Illustrations. Basically a series of comic books in 1947. Although the original story was published in 1813. Basically, they're usually thicker and there's a lot more reading involved. Because I was able to get through it in either just over or just under an hour. It was one of those things, I started reading it and I just couldn't put it down. I got to do more of that. I was talking to my mom about that. I got to read more stories and do stuff I want to do for a change. I could always, make a reflection video of them. Anyways, awesome story. I like I said, I couldn't put it down. This depiction on the cover with the sharks represents basically just one little part of the story, but that's what you might call a marketing decision. I know when I was a kid, if I had something like this when I was a kid, I would treasure it just because of the sharks. Even though, they're not really scientifically accurate drawings, but... but in 1947, not a lot of people knew a whole lot about sharks, so that's what I said. Putting that on the cover was kind of a marketing decision. But awesome story. Awesome story. Centers around a family of 6 who are shipwrecked, or Rex is wedged between a couple of rocks. They're basically abandoned by the crew, and after the storm is gone, they fashion a barrel-like boat, kind of the thing depicted on the cover there, to get all the family members, the wife and the 4 sons and the father, to make back and forth trips from the wreckage to the island, because they're slowly but surely dismantling this wreckage to build a home for themselves on the island. But the story in a nutshell, basically by the end of the story, two of the sons want to go back to civilization, and two end up staying with the aging parents. Things that made me curious about in the story is I wondered if it was true, if you ever need to kill a serpent, it's best to do it on a full stomach. the serpent. Make sure the serpent has a full stomach. And apparently certain livestock can be tamed by biting them on the ear. The father in the story tames this donkey by biting it on the ears, and I found myself wondering if such a thing worked with horses. But the island they're on has got to be off the coast of Australia, because at one point the dad/narrator, the dad in the story is also kind of sort of the narrator, points out that his kids are learning of strange animals on this island, and one such animal is undoubtedly identified as a kangaroo. The story even has explosions in it. At one point, the dad uses gunpowder to blow out a part of the wreckage to free a pinnace, which I guess is a kind of boat or kind of sailboat. Also, he must blast a cave to expel toxic air inside it so they can turn the cave into additional living space for the six of them. But towards the end of the story, I was lost in the idea of all these characters being happy all the days of their life on this island, till I remembered these were four boys who were fast becoming men. So it makes sense at the end. I think the two older ones wanted to go back to civilization, and at one point the oldest one is exploring other islands, and he happens to find another island where an English maiden has been stranded for 3 years. The church lady would say, "How convenient." But by the end of the story, the parents are like, well, why should we leave this island? We made this beautiful home for ourselves. And throughout the story, their father is constantly, reminding them we got to thank God for, the trials they survive and for the good fortunes that they have and all that. But they're on this island and made this beautiful home. They're growing and raising their own food, working like that all their life. As man and wife, they're still maintain their health and agility. So why would they have to leave even after they're discovered by civilization once again? The book at the end also includes a little bit of history of the real novel. Apparently, it's debated whether or not a family member wrote it, and then the son took over and became a published. The father wrote it, but the son published it years later. Anyways, interesting stuff. I think I find value in things most people don't find value in. What can I say? I'm weird. All right, I'm gonna wrap this one up. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the best teacher in the world. Trial and error. Just try to deal with the trials and hope, say your prayers and hope to God you avoid the big errors. I find that if I make myself full at night after working on chicken broth, I can avoid temptations of consuming things I shouldn't be consuming at night. Trial and error. I don't know this for sure, but I speculate that it's the same as like a smoker when they got to light up as soon as they get out of work. Anyway, this is all speculation on my part. I've never been addicted to nicotine, but my only addiction is sugar and salt, which is kind of good because they're, I guess, easier to deal with. But if I satisfy my body with the chicken broth, I can sleep at night. So, no, it's people who willfully give a pretty hefty portion of their salary to the tobacco and alcohol industry are the same kind of people that kind of, at least in my perspective, the same people who complain about how unfair life is to them. Again, at least in my experience. So, all right, I'm going to wrap this one up. I recently acquired a couple more subscribers on my channel, and it got me thinking. It reminded me of this rap song I heard recently that goes, in part, "My crew is big, and it keeps getting bigger, and that's because Jesus Christ is my..." If only I could see the faces of the people watching this. Mike Fairlack, thank you for your time.